When asked what my favorite memory of NCA is, it's really difficult because I think it's a compilation of a lot of them, and it's because of the people that are at every NCA. They are so creative, so inspiring, and yet they leave me with ideas to go back and reinvigorate my classroom. And so I think that that's probably my favorite memory, is just all of the people that I get to meet and socialize with.
My best memory of NCA is actually several memories combined together. It's meeting certain people. When I first came to NCA, I was in awe of some of the big names, some people whose material I'd read, and I thought, wow. And several of them, Carol Blair, Kathy Turner, Ray McCarrow, have become very, very close friends. So it's meeting and getting to know some really, really good people. That's my best collective memory of NCA.
My favorite memory of NCA, aside from the scholarship, is the friendships I've formed here. I have 3 very, very good friends who I met at NCA, and we continue even 30 years later to get together and room together and spend time together while we're here. So that is just a wonderful extra added bonus.
The memory that I have is not necessarily a single memory, but kind of what I love most about coming to NCA is that every year it's a chance to connect with colleagues and friends from grad school that I really only see at NCA. And the level of conversation, getting to catch up, learning about what's going on in people's lives, but also getting to share research, creating new projects. Just engaged in a couple of conversations today where we're developing new studies and doing fun things. So that's my favorite kind of cumulative memory of NCA.
My fondest memories, with an S, of NCA are all the amazing people I have met over the years, whom I consider among my best friends. And not only are they good friends, but what makes it that important was they helped me when I was trying to write my first article, when I was trying to decide whether to go to get a doctorate, when I was trying to decide whether to become an administrator, when I was trying to decide whether I dare become a candidate for office at NCA. Without them, I don't know where I'd be, but I know I wouldn't be as happy as I am now.
Well, my memory is really a collection of memories. I absolutely love those moments when I have had the opportunity to connect with people here. I love casual conversations that I've had at parties. I love standing by the elevators at NCA in Chicago and chatting with people who I haven't seen in a very long time. And I love the fact that over the years, starting as a graduate student, all the way to now being a full professor at Ohio University, that I have shared my professional life with so many people. A friend was talking to me recently and she said, you know what, we started as grad students and now we're starting to think about our kids getting married and having babies, and we've shared our lives together, and that's very cool.
My favorite memory is my very first NCA, which happened in the late 80s. And I was really excited because I came and I had this wonderful program, and I had booked a session every single moment that I was here, and I loved every one of them, and I thought, what a wealth of great information. And about the second day after I had gone to session and session and session, one of my dear colleagues said, let us go and have a little beverage. And I said, oh, I can't because I have another session. And he said, you are missing a very important part of NCA, and that is that you have to leave time to network as well. And he was not fooling. It wasn't about the beverage. It was about networking with other scholars.
Many years ago now, I was a master's student at Temple University, and I had planned to just do a master's degree, and at the end of my second year I came to, or I guess the beginning of my second year, I went to an NCA conference and absolutely fell in love with going to sessions and hearing about the research everyone was doing and seeing the many of the professors, scholars that who I had been reading. And as soon as I returned home, I told my husband that I felt like I really needed to stay in school and get the PhD. So it really was NCA that completely changed the trajectory of my professional life, as I really had not ever thought about doing a PhD until that NCA conference.
My favorite NCA memory has to be San Antonio, Texas. I got in early, so I decided to do a pre-conference. It was an all-day pre-conference, and we spent a lot of time with group interaction, and I made such great relationships that I actually spent the entire conference with 5 other women, and we shared a lot about the things that we do in our class, and we shared a lot about our research and the relationships that I have now. And it was all because I came early, and I really got to enjoy that time networking together, and I look forward to seeing them again every year and having those same conversations and just really building on the relationships we have from here on out.
So one of the great memories for me is actually an ongoing experience that I've been having at NCA. For years, there's been a group of us that actually get together and play basketball at the conference every year. We find a park or a gym, and we gather for a nice pickup game. And it's several of us who have connections through graduate school, through advisors, and just lots of different connections throughout the discipline. And we've all kind of gone our separate ways, but it's just fantastic that every year we kind of gather at the basketball court, and we get to play a great game together, but we also get to catch up with each other's lives, talk about our research, our teaching, our work experiences, our families, etc. And so it's a nice reminder that this isn't just a profession, that there's a holistic experience from profession to recreation to family, personal lives, friendships, etc. And so on that basketball court, it really brings all those things together. And it's just been a great experience for all my years here at NCA.
I cannot imagine my career without the role of NCA. Of course, when I first joined this association, it was SAA, then SCA, and of course now NCA. But throughout all those years, this association has been central to the fabric of our own department at the University of Utah. In fact, I would not be at the University of Utah had it not been for the fact that in an elevator in a New Orleans hotel in 1971, I happened to bump into Rick Reiki. And Ken Franson, who was a member of my committee, had told me, keep your eyes open for Rick Reiki because they've got a job out there and they're really going to put things together. And I went through the entire convention and never saw him. And then on the last day, going up in that elevator, there I was, and I saw the name tag, and I said, Rick Reiki, Ken Franson said I should see you. And he said, oh, you're Bob Avery. Ken Franson said I should see you. And so it turned out we were on the same floor. We went into his room. His wife was frantically packing to get out to the airport. He handed me some information about the university, called me up when I got home. I went out there. It was the only job interview I ever had. So NCA changed my life.
My favorite memory of NCA is actually back when I was a grad student at Michigan State, and I think it was my second time coming to NCA, and I was a little intimidated like many grad students are, and I was sitting in the main hall of the convention hotel. It was the San Diego Convention Hotel, and I was just chatting with someone. I didn't know who they were, and I was working through a problem that I was dealing with on one of my papers that I was writing for class, and it was just the nicest person. And actually he helped me work through the problem, and I said goodbye and went on my way, and I never thought to get his name. And I saw him later that day with his name tag on, and he was one of the top scholars in the field, and never knew it. It was just nice, wonderful, great situation, and I learned a lot, and he's actually become a good friend now.
My favorite memory from NCA really is just about every time I go to NCA, I see somebody I know from when I was an undergraduate, when I was from my forensics experience, or from when I was in graduate school in either my master's or PhD program. And I really enjoy every time I'm able to connect with some of those old friends and make some new contacts.
This is my 32nd NCA convention. I have been to every NCA convention since 1982 when it was in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm a very proud, long-standing member of NCA. I love this convention, I love these people. There's so many memories. One of the first memories I had was of Frank Dance and some of the people I was reading in my theory textbooks buying me a drink at my very first convention. and being very real people and having conversations with graduate students like we were family. And I remember feeling at home in the discipline and at the convention and feeling very convinced that I'd made the right decision to go to graduate school and to study communication.
My area of specialty is organizational communication, and I came to the academic profession after about 20 years in the business world. So I kind of like to see myself as bridging theory and praxis. As far as NCA goes, I have very pleasant memories overall of NCA. I've been going to NCA conventions since '93 when I was a new doctoral student. I was in my early 40s. And I don't have so much one specific memory that comes to mind, but what I really like most about NCA, and I noticed this very soon when I started attending, was I liked how accessible these names really were, the experts in the field. I am not an eminent scholar, and I never have been, and at my age I probably will never be, but I liked having access to the names of people I was studying, and then there they were at the conference. I could kind of interface with them and ask a couple of questions. I'd often say, "You're my hero," which I hope made them feel good. It was true. And I just remember, after being in the business world for so many years and going to conferences that were professional conferences other than communication, a lot of the big guns are just not that accessible. But in our field, it's a wonderful thing to see that. And I still like to go up to the people that I respect and admire and have been reading and tell them that they're my hero.
Standing in front of, at a program, standing in front, looking out into the audience and seeing the people that were in the audience were the people whose research I had read and whose research had informed my research, and they were listening to me, and so that was very memorable for me.
My favorite NCA memory would definitely have to be meeting two different authors of textbooks that I teach from. It was really fun to get a chance to talk to them about some of the theories that I'm teaching and questioning some of the things that maybe they left out in a textbook or added in, and really feeling like they valued some of the input that I had to say about their textbook. It was one of those like come to life moments.
My first memory of NCA was the first conference that I ever attended, which happened to be in Chicago, my senior year of undergraduate school. It was very exciting to finally see in person the people whose work that I had read and realize that these people were actually real and had their own thoughts and their own feelings beyond the things that I had read about in my books and in my journal. So that was a very exciting experience.
My favorite NCA memory was when it was SCA. And one of my very first conventions, I went to a rhetoric panel that was standing room only. Only there was one chair available, and it was next to this short little older man with a shock of white hair. And so being fearless and not knowing anybody at the convention, I marched in and sat in the only open chair that was available next to him. And the panel went on, and there was a discussion about Donald Bryant and Donald Bryant's work and what it meant, and there was quite an enlivened discussion at the front of the room after the papers were given about what Donald Bryant would say or think about this. And finally, the wizened little man next to me stood up and said, "Well, I am Donald Bryant." And this is what I think about what is being said. So there I was, a brand new faculty member, a brand new member of NCA, SCA, and that's my most memorable recollection of the convention.
When I think back on the last 25 years of going to NCAs, there was always a fixture. That was Jim McCroskey. Typically that fixture was to be found at the bar. Of course, we lost him this last December, and so when I think back on all of those fond memories and what a generous person he was, and certainly what a leader he was in our field, he'll be missed. But for me, that experience of having a cold beer with Jim became what NCA was all about in a lot of ways. So that camaraderie, that closeness that we all share is something that makes a mark on you forever. And so I miss Jim, and I love the memory.
I've been coming to NCA for over 20 years, and so like so many people, it's provided a space and an opportunity for me to be able to network with other people, to learn new things, and then also to participate in the larger conversation of where we'd like communication as a discipline to go. And so I think that's where NCA really has power, place, and prominence, in that communication is so ubiquitous through our lives. Here's a place where people are actually trying to do it well.
I'm here at the 99th annual convention for NCA. One of the fondest memories I have is just starting out 13 years ago, going to my first NCA in Florida, and the warmth and the camaraderie of all the folks in general, but particularly the community college section has been very supportive.
NCA traditionally is filled with lots of fun and exciting kinds of memories. Of course, many of the people that I would be able to meet and network with, but one of the most, I think, permanent memories is the 7 a.m. meetings that I was always at with the community college section. It was a decision that the community college section made to offer these very early morning meetings so that faculty, people could come and take advantage of all of the many sessions throughout the day. We found that when we had business meetings during the day, there were sessions we couldn't attend. So those 7 a.m. meetings became sort of a badge of honor that we were so committed to the section and to learning as much as we could. We tried to maximize the days.
My sense of NCA is not necessarily about a specific experience, but the overall feel I have for what the association and the conference provides. Because as a director of forensics, when I'm meeting my colleagues week in and week out at various forensics tournaments, we always have to wear the hat of coach or advisor. And when we get to come to NCA, it's a great opportunity for us to simply engage in the learning and fellowship component. And I think that's the reason that all of us get into higher education, is because of some of those special bonds that we create. And NCA provides that opportunity that we really don't get and that I don't get any other time during the year.
I have so many great memories of being a member of NCA. And if I have to pick one theme, I would say participating in the community of NCA has led me to a recent success in securing a research grant from a National Science Foundation. I can recall many experiences and many people from NCA that had helped me in this process. I remember in particular, I think it was since 2006 or 2007, Dawn Braithwaite, former NCA president, put together a series of panels on getting external funding, where she brought together senior scholars in the field as well as NSF program officers to come to the conference to give tips to young scholars like myself. And in 2008 in San Diego, Verna Miller, former Organizational Communication Division chair, put together a pre-conference workshop on external funding as well, and I participated in that as a graduate student. And then 2009 in Chicago, Paige Turner, another former chair of Organizational Communication Division, gave me an opportunity to organize a panel on cyber infrastructure where we brought together some computer scientists from Argonne National Lab as well as some senior well-funded scholars in communication to engage in a dialogue, an interdisciplinary dialogue that strongly influenced my work today.
I think my favorite NCA memory, convention memory, is the year that I planned the 2009 convention, and we had our first scholars office hours, and we had 75 scholars in a room wondering if any students were going to come and meet with them, and all of a sudden I noticed that there were crowds outside, and as the door opened, probably a total in an hour of 400 young students came in and met with all the scholars, and it was just loud and raucous, and it was great. And so probably that was my proudest and my happiest NCA moment.
I had the opportunity to work with women who were presidents of NCA in the 20th century, and they wrote a book, and I got to spend some time in reading their work and doing some summary with it and writing about that. So seeing the history and how things have really evolved with going from SCA to NCA has been an exciting journey, and to see how it's grown is really wonderful.
Probably my favorite memory at NCA is when I was a top 9 gifts recipient. Gifts is my favorite part of NCA.
You get to come and get 120 new ideas from different faculty members across the campus of actual activities that you can use in your classroom to enhance our profession, to make better communicators, to enhance our students who are communication majors.
One of my most fond memories of NCA is being a participant in the gifts sessions, the great ideas for teaching students, and being able to share pedagogy and lesson plans with a variety of different teachers from various institutions.
And it is a real challenge to pick what my favorite NCA memory is because there are so many. But when I'm thinking about something that's appropriate for camera, I guess I think about the moments where I've discovered something that changed the way that I was going to teach, an activity that I would bring to the classroom. And so I always enjoy those gift sessions, and I make sure to attend every one. And there have been just so many activities that I've collected from those sessions over the years that I use in my classroom, and then I bring back to my other faculty and share with them. So it gives me a positive experience not only here, but when I travel back to my college as well.
It's exciting to see the amount of community that I haven't experienced at other conferences. And one of my fondest memories is I just did a short course, my first short course, and it was exciting to teach about an area of research that I'm so interested in and passionate about.
And my memory is of a graduate student that we brought to NCA, and it was his first time really sharing his research with the scholarly community. So, you know, we were worried because it was like one of these very early morning panels, and we were like, oh, it's just going to be just a panel. But, you know, he showed up, he was prepared, he presented his research, and as a faculty member, having watched him go through that process, I was just really happy that he presented at NCA because he got good feedback, and I just thought it was a really valuable experience that reminded me why this kind of thing is important.
This is my first NCA conference, and I would say that my favorite memory thus far has been the opening welcome to NCA for new members or for first-time attenders. I suppose that's it. It was a really great opportunity to meet some of the officers and organizers and to connect with other first-time attendees.
I'm a grad student, and I came here to look for PhD programs and see what's available, and it's really awesome that I got to meet so many professors and so many people that are so intelligent in their field. I'm really thankful to have this opportunity, and Washington, D.C. is so amazing, so beautiful, and I'm really excited for next year. I'm for sure coming back.
The thing I love most about NCAs are all the different cities that you get to go to, because you get all kinds of different experiences in every city that you go into. You know, if it's San Diego or San Antonio or Chicago. Well, now having it in DC, I just had one of the most fantastic experiences ever. I was just in the Senate for a historic vote. They just changed the filibuster rules for judiciary and executive nominees, now changing it to where they're only a regular majority vote instead of a supermajority. So it's experiences like these that you get to experience not only NCA, but the towns that they're in.
My favorite NCA memory actually is in 2002. It was my first NCA in New Orleans, and it was all very new to me, and I was really enjoying just the whole research process and sharing my research and going to panels and visiting with people and sharing ideas. And just as a part of that, I got to be a part of a panel that was about 9/11, and I think part of what made that just so interesting and special in terms of a memory is that people were doing research about something that really affected our country, and they wanted to make sure that their research mattered and also commemorated a very historical event in our country.
My favorite memory from NCA, I've been coming since 1996. I've been very active in the theater division, and my favorite memory had to be in Miami in 2003 after I'd been elected to the leadership in the theater division. That on Sunday after the panel was all over and we were waiting for our late flights, the executive committee of the theater division sat out on the beach and planned the life of the division, what turned out to be for about the next decade. And I'll never forget that afternoon spent with Barbara Parisi and Julie Molenkamp. So that's my favorite memory of NCA.
My favorite NCA memory has to do with the convention in New Orleans, where we go fairly often. When my daughter, who's now 18, was just an infant, and taking her around New Orleans and introducing her to all of my friends and colleagues was a great deal of fun. And she went on a riverboat for the first time, and the horn sounded and she nearly lost it, but she's now a college sophomore and doing fine, so she wasn't traumatized too badly in New Orleans.
when I was a graduate student, it seemed like about 10 years in a row, probably wasn't 10, but it felt like 10, NCA was at some hotel in Chicago. And I was from Texas, and Chicago was very foreign and very cold. So I was really nervous. And then I had to go in and present when I was a master's student, and it was a very daunting task for me to think about how I was going to do an academic presentation when I had no idea what I was really talking about. So I got ready and I practiced and I worked with my advisor and it was all perfect. And then I was on my way to the presentation and the elevator was really, really full. So I decided to walk, and I was walking up, seemed like 1,000 flights of stairs, but it was probably, 20 something. And I got to the almost top, and it took me a long time. So I was, going really fast, and I tripped up the stairs and I ripped my pants, but it was time for my presentation to start. So I come, hauling myself in the door, I looked hot, sweaty, exhausted, ripped clothes, and needless to say, it was not the best presentation I ever gave in my life, but I was so grateful when it was over because I thought, okay, if I can do that, I can do anything. And from there, it's been pretty much downhill.
I think my favorite memory is the 1984 Chicago convention because it was my first convention. I was a grad student working on my doctorate, and I remember going to a special conference on organizational culture, and all the big names in organizational culture were there, and it was slouching toward Chicago. And it was just a great experience. I can't even compare it to anything else I've had since.
Well, I don't know if I'd call this my favorite memory, but it's certainly my most intimidating memory. The year was 1968. It was my first NCA. I've been to 45 NCAs since then. And it was the first time I had attended a convention program. I was a master's degree student at Syracuse University. And on this occasion, I went to a session that looked interesting to me. I didn't know anything about conventions, what happened there, other than that there were these programs. I walked into this program, and the first speaker was introduced. That speaker stood up, began his talk, and immediately passed out. My heart started palpitating. I began to wonder, what in the world have I gotten myself into?
My memory is going to Chicago's NCA, I think it was my second, and meeting, I went with my friend Terry Garza to a panel on Leith Ayer's work and said something about teaching using Thorsten Veblen in my speech class, which got an eyebrow raise from not only the old man, but also the young man who had put on the panel, who was this cute guy, Corey Anton, who I had told Terry I thought was kind of impressive, and she said, be careful of those Thayer students. And now that we're married years later, I understand the warning, and but I'm really glad that I didn't steer clear. It took a couple of NCAs. It was kind of like Groundhog Day. We'd run into each other as graduate students, and then when we were finally professors, I don't know. After one dinner together and we went home, he started calling me, and I realized I had a long-distance boyfriend. So I'm very grateful to NCA for making it possible to meet someone that wonderful. That makes me very happy.
I'd like to remember back to about the mid-2000s when I had been coming to NCA for a few years, but was beginning to network and move into the job market. And at that time I got to know Dr. James Brandon of Hillsdale and Dr. Richard Vatz of other places, and got involved in some community building there. And that's just been a great trajectory for me at this point in my career.
A memorable NCA moment I have was when I was just entering into the professorate as an assistant professor. I attended a business meeting with the African American Communication and Culture Division, and I became a member of the nominating committee. Relatively small position. I never knew at that moment that it would allow me the opportunity to progress as I have. From there, I became secretary. And then I became the second vice chair, and I got to do the awards of the division. the next year, I became the program planner as I was the first vice chair. And then last year, I was the chair. Currently, I'm serving as the immediate past president, and so which means I'm now on Legislative Assembly. And being a part of the governing body for NCA is a whole nother world that I often heard about, but never thought I would be a part of it. But being a part of it, having a say-so in the different things we do, the governance, the procedures, it's been an opportunity that has been life-changing.
My own personal favorite memory was when I received the Marcella Oberle Award in San Antonio. That is for an outstanding K-12 educator, and I was thrilled to be nominated by Gordon Mitchell at the University of Pittsburgh. I work with them by teaching an argumentation course in my high school and their college and high school program, and also to be chosen as someone that this organization would choose to honor.
I've been a member of NCA since the early 1970s. And there are any number of times that my life has been changed being involved in NCA. But I have to today say that it's probably this year my wife Sandra Petronio is receiving the Knapp Award. And it's a terrific point in her life, but also in mine.
My first NCA was probably in 1990 when I was a graduate student at Northwestern. And I liked that NCA a lot because I had to drive to it from Chicago. And it was in Atlanta. And it was one heck of a drive with about 6 of us in a car, and we shared a room, and I enjoyed that time. But this year, of course, I was the Carol Arnold lecturer, and that was exciting and fantastic, and I will never forget it. I am blessed to have good friends who came out, and I'm happy that it went well. So I think it's nice to know that my first and my most present NCAs happen to be my most precious memories.